Hey, welcome to the Joe Hoft Show. This is Joe Hoft. They're going after people like you and me for sharing the truth. They're all phonies. They're liars. They're fakes. How much evidence did they gain on Dominion? How much did they gain that they're not telling us about? Well, there you go. This is the Joe Hoft Show. I'm Joe Hoft. That last piece there, by the way, that notes about Dominion. I've heard that Fox News had some damning information on Dominion, and instead of fighting and standing up for their rights and the rights of the American people, quite frankly, they bowed down and gave Dominion, millions, billions, right? Just so much money, 700 and some million. Yeah, it was almost a billion. Crazy, crazy. So there's something very nefarious about that court case between Dominion and Fox News. I know there's a lot of angles. A lot of people have written about the connections between the two entities. It was a zero sum at the top. I'm not really sure about all that. I'm not really privy. Some of that stuff makes sense. Some of it doesn't. Some people say things that are just stupid about some of these entities, and they don't know it, and they think they're smart, and they just don't understand business, and they don't understand the interconnections. So not really sure, but I just know that Dominion voting machines and all these voting machines are absolutely disgusting. They don't work. They are secure, insecurity magnets. They are targets for anybody and everybody for sure. And I can say that based on my book, The Steel, Volume 2, when I talk about systems, 2 chapters on systems. One chapter is they're not in compliance with the U.S. laws. I go through over and over why these things they are not in compliance. The second thing in my book, the white book, there was that the systems based on a government report itself, and I keep saying this, it wasn't going out on a limb against Dominion. It was going and taking the information that was shared by the U.S. government in 2021 about the systems used in Georgia, and they were the Dominion systems. And those systems, per a CISA audit, they stated the systems are not secure. A bad actor could sneak in, and a bad actor could steal an election. That's, basically, quote unquote, what the government shared about these systems. So it's not just making stuff up. I'm using the quotes from the U.S. government for related to the 2020 election. So there you have it. You can argue this, you can say this isn't true. No, we just share the truth here. That's our job. We're going to give you the truth because we know that truth and God are the same, and we choose to stay on the side of God. We don't want to be on the side of the other side. And man, boy, I tell you what, I put a piece up yesterday at joehoff.com. I haven't shared it with Apollo yet, but it's about the Pope. This came from LifeSite News, the big Catholic organization that's, pro freedom, pro Jesus, anti legal activities by the Catholic Church, and quite frankly, anti Pope Francis. And their piece here, yeah, thanks, Apollo. There's the Pope, one of his last days, just kind of a creepy guy, I think, at the end. And this article written by the Masonites, is that their name? They praise Pope Francis. The Freemasons, there you go, thanks. The Freemasons praise Pope Francis, which is absolutely alarming to anybody who knows who the Freemasons are. Apparently, there was and LifeSite mentioned this. Apparently, there was an event in the early 1900s where the Freemasons marched in and around the Vatican with basically posters saying, the devil's going to take over the Vatican, and a lot of people feel like Pope Francis stole that papacy and wasn't a legitimate pope, and a lot of good people believe that. So, anyways, that's in the news. We're dealing with that. I see President Trump's going to be flying to the funeral of Pope Francis, and ironically, the last day that Pope Francis had. Our vice president had met him, and that's pretty wild. Anyways, lots going on there. This is a battle of good versus evil at all levels, and we just choose to stay with Jesus, the truth, and God for sure. We don't want to be on that other side. We don't want to be there. And so we're going to keep fighting on, and that's what this is all about. I tell you what, I put a piece up earlier today at noon, so this is going on right now in Boston at the State House on Beacon Hill. There is a rally put on by Ann Vandersteel and some others. It's a call to action against judicial tyranny. There's a family that didn't want to give their child a shot. Apparently, the government said that they needed to give this daughter a shot. They refused. They took their whole family and left, and they ended up. The government captured the family, is my understanding, and took their 5 children away, and all because of this mandate to get this child some sort of shot. So sounds horrible. And Ann and others are there in Boston today. I don't have any live feed from that yet, but that's happening today. And then another event that's coming up this afternoon, and I'll be partaking in this event. It's a free Tina Peters event. It's today, it's online, and I have some information there at joehoft.com. Tina, of course, as you know, has been wrongly imprisoned in the state of Colorado. I should say the communist state of Colorado, because you cannot win elections there anymore with the way they've got them set up. They are totally broke and totally fixed for the monsters to continue their realm. And so anyways, Tina was wrongly prosecuted. This event's going to take place this afternoon. You can get details on that. There'll be a number of speakers, including myself, and happy to stand up for Tina any day of the week. God bless her and all that she's had to go through. You think you've got a rough day, man. How would you like to be Tina Peters sitting there in prison? So for doing nothing wrong. That's the kicker. It's one thing to be in prison because, you know, you committed a crime and you feel terrible about it, but it's another thing to be in prison because you're wrongly imprisoned. And how many people in our prison system today are in that situation? Not just Tina Peters. I've been praying for people like Mike Sessa, who was imprisoned by Andrew Weissman 3 decades ago, 34 years ago. I've been praying for Brian Kofosh, who's lost 3 limbs in the war in Iraq, and ends up helping build the wall. And because of that, a corrupt court and a corrupt Obama judge in New York City throw him in prison and make up charges against him and 3 other individuals, and Steve Bannon being one of them. Bannon was pardoned, the rest weren't. Brian's sitting in prison in Rochester, New York, because he's severely handicapped. He had a home that was built for him by the Gary Sinise Foundation because he's so handicapped, because he's a war hero, and they threw him in prison in Rochester, where they're keeping him. He did nothing wrong, in my opinion. And then you have others. We've got Tina for sure, and we need to keep praying for these people. God bless them. It's not right what's happening. We've got to get this fixed. We're going to share some great stuff here in a couple moments, but I saw this earlier today, and I noticed it over the weekend. It's the beautiful Carrie Underwood. I haven't been, followed her too much. Obviously a pretty girl, great singer, and she did something this weekend that was incredible. We'll talk about that, but found this piece of her at her America's Most is it Most Wanted, the best talent, America's Got Talent, I guess that's it, with Carrie Underwood. She auditioned and she knocked it out of the park, and that was back in 2004 is my understanding, so 20 years ago. Anyways, take a look at this.
Carrie.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you nervous?
A little bit.
Why?
He's scary.
He's scary?
Yeah.
I know.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. He is, though.
What are you going to sing?
I Can't Make You Love Me.
All right.
Turn down the lights. Turn down the bed. Turn down these voices inside my head. Lay down with me. Tell me no lies. Just hold me close. Don't patronize. Don't patronize. something that it won't here in the dark. These final hours, I will lay down my heart.
Okay, that was very good.
Yeah.
Very good, Carrie.
Great voice.
Very good.
Man.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Who's your favorite singer? Who do you love?
Actually Martina McBride.
Yeah, I could hear a little bit of that. Yeah, very good.
Tell me about your chicken thing you do.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, clap for us.
There's no secrets on this show, Carrie.
I have the ability to cluck like a chicken.
Okay, make it work. Come on, make it work.
Oh no, I can't smile. I can't do it.
God, that was good.
I could have just clucked.
Oh man, that was 20 years ago. Well, she, as you know, she sang at President Trump's inauguration, stood up for our president like some of these scoundrels, nasty actors and actresses will and will not do. And I remember at the inauguration, she's there, it's indoors, and somebody jacked up the music, so she didn't have any background music. And she stood there and she said, "Okay, you guys help me out here. You know the song too." And she sang a beautiful rendition. I think it was America the Beautiful or God Bless America, one of these great songs, and did an outstanding job. I became a huge fan of hers then. And over this weekend, she sang an incredible rendition of How Great Thou Art. Thought we'd play a portion of that here. This is 20 years later after that audition. Here's Carrie Underwood singing this past weekend. Wow. That was really, really good. A lot of fun watching that. Thank God. Thank the Lord Jesus. That was beautiful. How great thou art over Easter weekend. What a rendition. What an absolute star. Boy, they nailed it when they found her. A young girl in Oklahoma years ago, 2 decades ago. Anyways, great stuff. Well, one topic we've been talking about for some time here at the Joe Hoft Show since the for forever it seems, is some sort of justice in our Justice Department. We've seen so many crimes happen, and even especially by the government and by these just monsters in the government that I just don't know how to say it any other way. They're monsters, and definitely not good people, evil people, and they have committed crimes and they have allowed crimes to take place. Anyways, a lot of people are really upset with what's going on with this DOJ. Now we've had 3 months. We're like, come on. And but Mike Davis, attorney Mike Davis, was on with Bannon yesterday, and he said, hold tight, justice is coming. And so here's a clip of his message with Steve Bannon yesterday.
I just had several meetings at the Trump Justice Department. I met with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, the acting number 3, Chad Mizell, and the incoming number 3, Stanley Woodward. And I want to reassure the War Room posse that they are very much on top of what's happening in our country, right? And just because you're not seeing criminal indictments right now that does not mean they're not coming. They are very much coming.
I want you to go back to that team because that's pretty impressive. This is not President Trump's first term Justice Department. Walk through who the players are, starting with Pam.
So Pam Bondi is the Attorney General. She is a rock solid constitutionalist. She's bold. She's fearless. She's not being flashy about what she's doing behind the scenes. But she is very much doing things behind the scenes.
We love Pam.
Yes.
Okay, who else?
She's great. We have
She's great.
Todd Blanche.
Fabulous.
The Deputy Attorney General.
Took the president on as a client when nobody else would touch it.
And got ostracized for it. Now these law firms are scrambling for Todd's blessing.
Yes.
Now, let's just put it that way.
Yes.
And, good luck to those law firms, especially law firms like Perkins Coie. Good luck.
So he's the deputy.
He's the Deputy Attorney General. He runs the day-to-day of the department. Chad Mizell is Pam's Chief of Staff, who's also the acting number 3, the acting Associate Attorney General.
Is he going to stay? He's doing a great job as Chief of Staff. Is he going to go to be number 3 and give up Chief? He'll stay as Chief.
He's staying as Chief of Staff, which is more important for Chad. It's just more important. Stanley Woodward is going to be the Associate Attorney General once he gets confirmed.
So he's moving from the White House.
He's already there. He's already there.
Over at DOJ.
Yeah, he's counselor to the AG right now.
And he was Navarro's lawyer.
Yeah, he was Stanley Woodward's, Walt Nada's.
Yeah.
Was Stanley Woodward was Walt Nada's attorney, the co-defendant on the presidential records case.
Yeah.
President Trump has a rock-solid team of very good lawyers who are battle-tested, who are loyal to the president and his agenda. They should be.
And the word is from Pam and the team is that, hey, we're not going to screw any of these things up. We don't want to hurry it. Things are happening. Stand by.
Justice is definitely coming. Let me just assure the War Room posse, justice is coming, and there's going to be accountability for this unprecedented Republican-ending lawfare where the Biden Justice Department was politicized and weaponized. There's going to be accountability for a lot of these crimes. It takes time to build these crimes. Kash Patel is there. He's doing a hell of a good job. So is Dan Bongino, his deputy. Justice is coming. So just because we don't see it publicly does not mean it's not happening. I know it's happening.
Good news from the DOJ. There's Mike Davis, Attorney Mike Davis. Let's pray and hope that everything he says is spot on. Certainly Kash Patel and Dan Bongino we're all fans of, as well as Pam Bondi for that matter. I didn't know if she was going to be strong enough. I guess we will find out. I don't like waiting. There's enough people I feel like we could arrest right now. And I don't know what the weight is on that. At least get them on the charges we absolutely know about. Worry about these bigger charges later. Let's get these people behind bars where they can't do any more damage. My Lord Jesus, let's get this country back in order. It's been an absolute nightmare seeing what Biden and Obama and Merrick Garland, my God, they were giving millions and billions to the terrorist Iran. I mean, that's not America. That's not America. I'm sorry, that's not America. These guys are animals. What we've seen with USAID and the money going to all these nonprofits around the country and world, bogus activities, unbelievable stuff. This stuff needs to be cleaned up as soon as possible, and these people need to be arrested. A lot of people. And Pam Bondi, if you don't have the people, there's people out there that are very smart, that are very capable. Bring them in. Sign them up and get these monsters put behind bars. The sooner the better. They're destroying this country. So that's my stand there. Anyways, hopefully good news from Mike Davis for some of us who've gone through all sorts of challenges and lawfare and all sorts of garbage. It can't happen soon enough. It cannot happen soon enough. By the way, I don't have anything on this yet. I haven't even written about it yet, but I see President Trump standing up to Act Blue. And you know who, Joe Hoft here was the first guy to report on Act Blue. Some information I got from an individual named Jack Gleason. We put it up, and that was the first warning. Hey, here's what's going on with Act Blue. We found these monsters. We were the first to report that long before O'Keefe or anybody else. Finally, there's some justice being done there. So that's awesome. I've also got some great information coming out of well out of New York that I'll be sharing in the morning. It's going to be an absolute bombshell, and it's related to some of my reporting in the past as well at the Gateway Pundit that was outstanding, earth-shattering, and original breaking news. Got another big story coming out of New York tomorrow, so hold tight. I may spend part of the show tomorrow just going through the massive operation crimes, actually maybe you could even call it murders, that have occurred in New York over the past few years that still haven't been accountable for. Big story. It's in the news right now anyways, parts of it, but we've got some breaking information that'll blow you away. Anyways, that's coming out tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be sharing that here on the show tomorrow. I mean, there's so much coming at us. We've got people shooting us stuff every day, more and more information. There's just so much to go through economically, all sorts of stuff to stand up. Here's one piece. We'll play this maybe before I go to break here. This is our new Treasury Secretary talking about China. We're starting to finally stand up against China. Joe Biden did everything they wanted. Joe Biden was a surrogate of China. He was a nightmare. This was a nightmare what we just endured these last 4 years. Anyways, watch this.
Here in the United States, we know we need to get our fiscal house in order. The last administration ran up the largest peacetime deficit in our nation's history. The current administration is committed to fixing this. We are open to critique, but we will not abide the IMF failing to critique the countries that most need it, principally surplus countries. In line with its core mandate, the IMF needs to call out countries like China that have pursued globally distorted policies and opaque currency practices for many decades. I also expect the IMF to call out unsustainable lending practices by certain creditor countries.
Boom. Asking the IMF to stand up against China. That's some big stuff there. So anyways, great stuff. Lots going on. And we've got another amazing story right after the break. Kelly Walker will be joining us, and big stuff from his end related to a topic that he's really that's close to his heart. So we'll be right back right after this short break.
Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting!
Stop resisting!
If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
$10 billion are stolen every year from Americans by online scammers. Every day, millions of people fall victim to online threats. Over 30 million spam calls are made per day in America, with over 50% of daily emails being considered spam. And that's not all. On average, over 40% of devices are vulnerable to hackers, and each person in America has 10 passwords stolen per year. Can you imagine having unrecoverable credit card debt? Your savings drained to zero, your home foreclosed on, your identity stolen and ruined, your entire life, poof, gone. Introducing Safe and Secure. With the advanced programs, you'll be able to stay in control and keep hackers out. Don't let the cyber criminals win. Safe and Secure. Shield against hackers and embrace peace of mind. Visit PadoxaSNS.com for more information and to learn how to keep yourself protected.
Hey, welcome back to the Joe Hoft Show. We're glad you are here. As I mentioned before the break, we were going to take a short break and then I'd come back with Mr. Kelly John Walker, and we have done that. Kelly's been on the show before, and he's been a great patriot. He's done a lot of things, helped a lot of people, and he's got really a breaking story. Today it went up at joehoft.com. We got it over at the Gateway Pundit as well. So without further ado, here is Kelly Walker. Kelly, welcome to the Joe Hoft Show.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me, and thank you for all your viewers for tuning in today.
You are welcome. I'm glad you're here. You have got quite a story here, not just the story today that you want to break, but your own personal story. Why don't we start off, for those that don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to even to today's story.
Yeah, my story's pretty organic. I'm not an influencer. I'm not someone who has a big name, but my family had moved from Bend, Oregon to Tucson, Arizona. Really, that we were just starting to understand what the left was and how radical it had gotten. But we opened a small coffee shop there, and Pima County attacked our coffee shop, set us up falsely as if we were non-compliant with the COVID nonsense. We actually had never failed an inspection. I ended up going to a Board of Supervisors meeting and getting arrested within 30 seconds of my allotted 3 minutes to speak. So pretty quickly there, I recognized our country's in really rough shape. I had been working as editor-in-chief for a national medical publication, and I knew the truth about COVID. So I was going online on social media telling people the truth because I have a Master of Science degree, and I was working as editor-in-chief of a medical publication. And I just saw this just hatred and ridicule coming back. So our business was thoroughly attacked. A year later, I was arrested again, this time for sitting in an office meeting, speaking, having a meeting, and basically that's kind of a long story, but three fathers were arrested. I was later tried, sentenced to 100 days in jail and $10,000 in fines. And you can see all of that at realfreedomtalk.com. Just go to the weaponization against parents page because I have videos, I have documentation, but I chose because people were coming to our coffee shop asking for help, asking for leadership. I chose to go ahead and step up, and I've been working on these issues, working for justice for the American people for about 5 years. And, Joe, we had people coming to our coffee shop saying, hey, because of these COVID restrictions, so-called guidelines imposed upon our children, they're committing suicide. The stats bear that out. And we became a voice, we became a meeting place for people on this, on the mandates, a lot of other things. But, one of the main issues was I was telling the Vail School District and Superintendent John Carruth, hey, these policies are killing children. And they not only refused to back off, they started demonizing parents. And from the research I have, that is where Merrick Garland and the Biden administration came in and applied the Patriot Act to parents, designating us as domestic terrorists. And by the way, when those three fathers got arrested, I came to witness what was going on for another father who said his son was being abused. I called State Senator at the time, Kelly Townsend, a sheriff's lieutenant, and the father called the police before the school ever did. They said it's too controversial, we're not coming out. So, but among the three fathers, I was the one that had a voice and a platform. I was subjected to what in legal terms we call a class of one, and that is when Several people are arrested for the same so-called crime. We didn't commit any crime, but and one of them is singled out and excuse me, deliberately punished more heavily, deliberately sentenced harshly. And they did that to shut me up, and it just didn't work. So I'm here to give you an update on where that fight has gone, and it's gone up to Washington, D.C., and some pretty amazing things are happening, Joe.
Yeah, great. And your story is you ended up leaving Arizona, as I recall. Is that right?
We
And
did.
moved,
Yep. We lost our home. Our business was forcibly taken over. We lost our savings. You know, it was a nightmare, but we stepped into it willingly because we wanted to protect people and sort of be that shield for the community. But when they came after our children and started weaponizing CPS, we said it's time to go. So we moved out to Tennessee. We feel like we've moved back to the United States of America. It's a whole different environment here. And people think of Arizona as red or maybe purple at worst. Well, that's true of a lot of areas, but Tucson is a communist hellhole. I won't even call it Democrat. I won't even call it blue. I'll call it deep communist red, not Republican red. And there's so much corruption and graft there. But the great news is, Joe, I have all of that information. I have a video of the entire school incident I was arrested for. And I've been in contact at the highest levels of our new administration. Kash Patel is aware of it. Pam Bondi, Harmeet Dillon, who's just gone into office, and several members of Congress. I sent them an email back in 2023 to several Congress members. Jim Jordan's office, his assistant contacted me probably a day or two after I sent the media release and said, "Hey, Representative Jordan has assigned a team of 3 of us, and we want to know what you know and share information with us." And I ended up going with Seek Smith from Mom Army and Dad Army. Sam Sorbo was a part of it, although she couldn't be there in person. Several other people, and we went as a coalition, and we visited with the staffs of Andy Biggs, Andy Ogles, Eli Crane, Paul Gosar, and Jim Jordan, and just laid out all the information. So it's a matter of public record now. I do have all the receipts. I've done thorough research. I have FOIA documents and emails showing that I was, in fact, from those emails, the first parent, the only one specifically alluded to. And, you know, I figured at the time, because the school district unwisely and improperly went out to worldwide media spinning a complete fabrication, Jussie Smollett style, I figured, yeah, I'm probably on some list, but I didn't realize, Joe, that I was kind of target number one. And what my family has suffered, what we've been through, again, you sacrifice whatever you have to for your country. But it's been appalling. It's been appalling. And now you have congressmen going down to try to bring an MS-13 gang member back, and they treated us like criminals. They treated Jennifer, a mother in Saurita, close to us, simply for not wanting to leave the school until they gave her the information she was entitled to on why they were quarantining her healthy daughter, denying her an education. They arrested her, her
That's
minor
this new
teenage
story. Sorry,
daughter.
sorry. Before we jump into
Yeah.
that, that's the story you wrote about today. That's up at Gateway Pundit and Joe Hoft.
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of now jumping into their story, which is just more of this. The theme here, I guess, Kelly, would be just this government versus parents. I guess.
Yes.
Is that how you define it? It's this
Yeah.
communist government versus American parents just trying to be left alone and allowed to be
Yeah.
their parents to their children.
Look, some parents were desperate to say, look, these policies are killing our kids. And I found out later they kept these in place despite these deaths because the CDC was paying them millions of dollars. Look, they have blood on their hands. And Jennifer there in the orange top, the judge put her in a county prison for 5 days simply for trespassing, which I would argue she had a right to be there and demand the information. They arrested her daughter, they arrested her husband, and they threw Jennifer into prison for 5 days. I went there to see her off and interview her when she went to prison. I'm still in touch with her. But there are a number of parents across the country who were treated in this manner. I know there's some very notable examples in Virginia. So I'm really fighting for all the parents. You know, uh, we struggle financially like any family, with the price of groceries and everything. But I've been very, very dedicated to this fight, gone up to DC on my own expense. And, we're going to win this fight. We're going to win this battle.
Yeah.
And some of the congressmen in that article, which you can find at Gateway Pundit or realfreedomtalk.com or joehoft.com, it's a very, very important step because I do believe Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and the others, they're putting together solid cases. You can't just start making arrests with a flimsy case.
Yeah.
But I will say
Yeah.
they're very much paying attention to this. I know it's important to them, and I know these congressmen are signing their name on the line to
Well,
even Abe
yeah.
Hamid, a freshman congressman. It's
Hmm.
it's tough to come in and sign a letter when you're new because you're a freshman, but he's stepped up and joined this coalition of congressmen who are saying enough is enough.
That's great. Yeah, this your work's been instrumental in has helped a lot of people here. Um, this incident that you're talking about today, why don't you tell us what was it all about? The school was saying, based on what you've shared already, school saying that, hey, there's this parent has to do something with their daughter, and the parents like the mother there, your friend, is like, no, 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 no. This is my daughter. You can't be telling me what I can do. Is that
Yeah, yeah.
somewhat the details? I'm sorry. One other thought that I
Sure.
wanted to interrupt you about is
Right.
that we talked about this before you came on in our first segment. Mike Davis tells Bannon, "Hey, I just went over to the DOJ. Maybe you saw this clip on Bannon. It's all over Twitter this morning, where he says, I talked to these guys. They are going to bring justice. You just got to give them time." And then as they're talking through the top people at the DOJ under Bondi, one of these guys hasn't been approved yet. So one group that really needs to be kicked in the butt is the Senate to get these people approved so that
Yeah,
Pam
yeah.
Bondi can move forward because, like you're saying there, she wants to do the right thing, but we got to get her team to do it. The fact that there's anybody that has still not been approved by the Senate is just it's not acceptable. It's
I'm gonna go.
outrageous.
Yeah, I did see that clip, and I'm gonna go there and walk this through. Anybody can go up and talk to their senators, their congressmen, and say, "Look, this is what we want." The days of, being overawed by members of Congress or coming forward as a supplicant are over. It's up to us to tell the congressman what needs to happen because we voted them into office. And I have to say, people like Eli Crane, Andy Ogles, all the people on this list, they've been wonderful. They've come into office not as politicians, but as servants. And they listen, they pay attention, and it's a great reciprocal respect, I would say. So we
Hmm.
do need, and yeah, like some of the deputy directors, like Jeff Zink was tapped to be deputy HHS director under RFK Jr. I know this issue is very important to him, and he's reached out to me on a previous media release and said, "Hey, I'm going to bring this straight to the president." So one of the things we need to do, Joe, besides having Congress involved, is I very much want to meet with President Donald Trump. Sam Sorbo is a part of this coalition. She's working to put together a visit to the White House. And I want to tell the president what these people have gone through. And I would like to see an executive order to give these people restitution to clear their records. Look, my two oldest sons, I remarried about 14 years ago, but some people use these just salacious, pernicious, defamatory articles against me. And they used it to alienate me and I've been a great father. And my 20-something-year-old sons haven't spoken to me in 2 or 3 years. I mean, the downstream effects of what Merrick Garland initiated, designating parents as domestic terrorists, it's incalculable. I mean, it's financial, it's emotional, spiritual. A lot of these families are still struggling financially. My wife and I got our first home together. It's gone. Tucson
Hmm.
illegally seized $10,000 out of our home sale. And it just got me to where I was exasperated. And I said, I'm going to go to Congress with this. I'm going to go to the government to the highest levels possible. I think, President Trump is obviously very busy, but this is something he's going to care about. And frankly, Joe, this is a slam dunk for Kash Patel. This is a slam dunk for Pam Bondi and for the administration because it's, I guess, all too easy to demonize people who went to the Capitol on January 6th. But school parents, Jennifer Mahuta, no record, me no criminal record. Like Jennifer Mahuta is a school mom and a children's book author. That's a long stretch. So this is something, Pam Bondi just created this task force on the weaponization against people based on religion. We need a task force now, and I'd love to be a part of it because I probably know more on this topic than anybody to get to the bottom of this weaponization against parents.
Hmm.
Merrick Garland, some of the government, there have been reports done, subcommittee on the weaponization of the government. Merrick Garland admitted it was improper and wrong. I have emails from the National School Board Association where members were saying this was absolutely wrong. So this should be something that we can pretty quickly get on top of and get these parents some help.
Mm, mm. Um, with you 100%, 100%. This attack that we've had by our government against American people for doing the right thing has just been well, it's been horrendous. It was really like China was running this country under the Biden
Yeah.
years, and they were doing all they could to help China too. So what happened to this? What happened to this mother-daughter team that is the focus of this article today?
Sure. Sure. Well, Jennifer went in full of courage. You can see that interview on realfreedomtalk.com on that weaponization page. But she came out really, I'd say with PTSD. Both my wife and I've had it. When we moved here, my wife, anytime a car would stop in front of the house, she'd have a panic attack. Like, are you going to be arrested again? I mean, it's Stasi level stuff to the point where a woman who wrote a book about being a child in Nazi Germany said it was just like this when I was a kid. They're in Tucson. She came into a coffee shop. So Jennifer did serve the time, and you'd think, okay, that's it's done. But she was also they tried to coerce her into writing a letter of apology, which is just demeaning. She
What's her
refused.
time? What was the charges against her? Sorry, Kelly. What was she charged with?
Yeah, sure. And I'll tell you, this is a pattern we saw over and over again. These school districts didn't want to be accountable to the parents. They didn't want to sit there and do their job and talk to these people at the school board meetings and in their offices, okay? So what they did is they used local police as a security force. So their pattern was, I'm not going to talk to you, leave now. They would get them trespassed. And the law in Arizona says that criminal trespassing is if a reasonable request has been made. In my own trial, my lawyer said, look, Mr. Walker was there to get information that they were entitled to. It's not a reasonable request to just leave the office and say you got to leave. They work for the parents. So Jennifer, her crime was misdemeanor 3 trespassing, which literally in severity is between a parking ticket and loitering. And to be sent to prison for basically a traffic court ticket, for me to be sentenced to 100 days in jail and $10,000 in fines for essentially a traffic ticket, this was absolute tyranny. And I've showed some of this video to dissidents who left the Chinese Communist Party, left and came to America, and they said, this doesn't look like the US, this looks like China. I mean, it's appalling what happened. But Joe, I have not stopped working on this, and I will continue working on it.
Mm. I think you're right. I think about it every day. And I've said it too, I've shared it. This is not America. This is not the America I grew up with. This is some communist or fascist regime. Talking about Tina Peters, for example, we got an event with her right after this. It starts at 2 Eastern, and a number of people are going to be speaking, and I'll be part of that. But what's going on with her in Colorado? As you know, Tina, probably know Tina well. Here she is sitting in prison for doing her job.
Well, Joe, over the past 5 years, I've put together a plan. This letter, which these congressmen are going to sign, is just a part of the plan. I'm so grateful that they're doing this. This is not like the white binders where you just hold something up. It's not just a strongly worded letter. This is just part of the entire plan. And subsequent to the weaponization of parents issue, I'm working with some others on getting sort of a super coalition together to address the broad weaponization of the Biden administration and DOJ against swaths of the American citizenry. And that could include the school parents. It could include some J6ers who really didn't commit crimes, Tina Peters and other so-called election deniers, just everyday people you wouldn't know about, on up to Mike Lindell and Rudy Giuliani, both of whom I've been reaching out to. I worked for Mike and we text back and forth. On up to the abortion protesters, and I've spoken with a large abortion organization, and they're on board. So what we really need to do, kudos to our representatives and senators and administration who are fighting this, but in point of fact, Joe, they cannot do this without us. And with us getting together, and we strengthen that voice, and we really, truly can get reform in this country. There are a lot of armchair quarterbacks. There are a lot of people sitting back cynical, oh, nothing's ever going to happen. Well, that's true if you don't get involved. And I want people to see, I'm a guy who's been broke. I'm working now, which is great. I've had some lapses in employment. I've been canceled politically out of a job. I don't have a huge name, but I've been able to do a heck of a lot. And I don't expect everybody to take the hits that I have and that we have and some others. some other parents, and Tina Peters obviously has taken massive hits. However, please don't just sit back cynical and take shots on social media. Do what you can. Donate to some of these people. Show up. Contact your congressman. Look, go check out this media release, this article on the weaponization against parents, and then please, if one of these congressmen signing this letter is your congressman, please contact their staff, contact their office, and say thank you so much. We support this. If your congressman isn't on that list, call them up, email them. Their staff is, most of the staffs will answer phone calls and just say, look, we're behind this. We need to take care of this. And, every win we get not only helps people like my family, like Jennifer's family, myriad others that I know of, it helps a lot of the causes. We've even talked about, this coalition, including some of the people like Adam Vena, who had their children taken away, had custody and visitation canceled because they didn't want to so-called affirm the gender. There's a family now in Oregon, I believe it's a family of 5. Sam Sorbo just sent me an article on them, and their daughter was being groomed in her school by the counselor and some staff, and they were trying to transition her without the parents being involved. The parents moved schools, started getting her back to herself, and they were at an event, and the sheriff showed up and said, you have this much time to give your child into custody of CPS. That is state-sponsored kidnapping. The Supreme Court made it clear in a 1925 ruling that, quote, children are not mere creatures of the state. And the parents absolutely have authority over those kids unless there is, physical or mental abuse. And none of us, the voters, by and large, we do not believe that guiding your children and helping them have a healthy sense of who they are biologically, that's not abuse. If they choose after 18, that's their choice. But to take children who are in single digits and even young teens and subject them to that, that's not only a crime against humanity, it's something that's unprecedented in the history of the world, and it's frankly sick. So we want to get all these people together and have a broad coalition that says, enough's enough. We're going to stand up for sane, reasonable, rational values that this country was founded upon.
Absolutely. I'm reminded of a number of things as you're talking. One thing, I remember talking to one congresswoman once, and she said, Joe, we're the last ones to get the information. I think there's this perception from us that they're getting all this great information all the time. And she's like, no, we're the last ones sometimes. So it's really important to share these stories with your Congress people, because they don't hear about it otherwise. They're busy. They're doing certain things, going to meetings, whatever it might be. They don't have a lot of time, I think, to really understand all the things going on. So it's people like you and us and the Gateway Pundit and JoeHoft.com, all these places for of sharing this message, getting it to them, because they don't know. They just don't know.
No, they don't. And I'm a professional writer. I'm a journalist, among other things. And I can draft something up for my congressman. I can say, here's something for you to consider. Take pieces of it if it's helpful. Their teams. I've been up to DC several times. I'd never been there prior to about last year. Their teams are typically pretty young people. They're very, very busy, multiple requests, and they'll take any help you can give them, as long as it's moral and ethical and within the guidelines. But, you can literally team with your congressman. You can go to your local congressional office and offer your services. My congressman, his office, they're so great, so friendly, so helpful, and I know they appreciate that help.
Mm. Well, that's something too. I think you're right. They're so busy. If you can hand them something that's read ready or whatever that they can share with others, that's a big advantage. I know it is for us. People come to me all the time. I can't tell you every day all these requests. People say, Joe, look at this information, and you just can only do so much. If there's something read ready or ready to put up or whatever, it makes it so much easier. A lot of stories I'd like to put up, I just don't have the time sometimes to even really dig through them, put them together, understand all the facts, and put all of it together. It's a challenge.
Yeah, and Joe, me, I'm a dad. I have certain professional abilities and qualifications that give me a chance to really help in this fight in some unique ways. But I'm not, like I said, I'm no celebrity or anything like that. But you don't have to be those things to help out. You don't. And here's one thing I'll say. I know, we use the term influencers a lot. I know some really good ones that will bend over backwards for you. They have hearts of gold. There are others, unfortunately, that are after money, notoriety. They want to build a brand. And that gets, I'll tell you why people like me are dangerous. And I don't mean dangerous physically. I mean that we are not going to take no for an answer and we're going to get justice is because we're fighting at a very fundamental level. We're fighting for our families. My 11-year-old son, we moved into a neighborhood. We had to rent a place, a friend of a friend, because I have a so-called criminal record and we got turned down on rental applications. The neighborhood was great at first, but I don't know what's happened. It's gone downhill. Now we have some, little punks, little lawbreakers. And my 11-year-old son got beat up last week. His older brother, 12, who's a lot larger, he had to intervene. But we went from having a beautiful house with a yard there in Tucson overlooking the mountains, older house, but we loved it. We had a garden, we had chickens, to living in this rental in these row houses and having to deal with an element here that's, not great for our kids. So, do you think I'm going to stop fighting? Do you think I'm going to stop fighting when everything I've worked for and saved for has been taken away by the federal government? No way. And this is what I say, Joe. This administration has a duty and a responsibility to return people like me, people like Jennifer, to the life, liberty, and happiness, pursuit of happiness that they enjoyed before their government waged a war on them. There's no justification for what's been done. I know that President Trump can pardon federal but not local. However, because this all started on a fraudulent basis at the federal level, I would argue that all the trials and everything that's happened they're all null and void. They're all predicated on a lie and on fraud, and these people need to be restored, and restitution needs to happen. I have a whole plan for that. And if anybody would like, just contact me, send me an email, use the contact form on my website, use the information on the media release or Gateway Pundit, and I'll send you a one-sheet summary of the situation so you can really pretty quickly get up to speed on what's been going on.
Kelly, you're doing great work. Yeah, just great work. What's the next steps here with this activity going on today and your message today?
The next steps are that we need to fully get this letter signed. I'm confident all of these congressmen will do that because they have been involved. They have been very devoted to this. Again, my thanks to Abe Hamidi. I know it's a little bit of there's a little trepidation in doing something this big when you're first in office. I have nothing but respect for Abe. I was there when he and Carrie Lake were deprived of what I think was rightfully should have been their election. But subsequent to this, I want to talk to President Trump. I definitely need to meet with the FBI, with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi. My friend, Riley Gaines, she's been and talked to a lot of these people. She's been to the White House because she's been rightly fighting for women's rights in sports. I'm kind of the much uglier male version, swims like a rock version of Riley Gaines, but in the parental targeting realm. So I'm more than happy to step up and talk and share the information I have and really help fight for these people. And they sure deserve it after all they've been through.
Yeah, across the country, not just in Arizona or Virginia. It was across the country. It was outrageous. So, no, great work you're doing, Kelly. So again, how can people reach out to you? How can they help you in any way?
Well, you can go to realfreedomtalk.com. There's a whole lot of information there. I write articles, I do shows. I'll repost this one on there. Follow me on Instagram and X at Real Freedom Talk. And if you'd like to donate, because I would love some help traveling and with some of the expenses for fighting this fight, you can go to givesendgo.com/freedom talk. I kind of like that we haven't had a huge amount of funding because I think it encourages people that you can still do things. But, any help, any funding is appreciated. You can also subscribe to my Freedom Talk magazine for just $5 a month and get just a super high quality magazine. We're also, I'm working with Sam Sorbo and talking to Kevin and Sam at Sorbo Studios about a documentary. You can see a preview for that on Freedom Talk. We haven't made the documentary yet, but we'd like to do it to share people's stories about what's going on.
Great work. Great work. Keep it up. Appreciate you being here. Keep us posted on what's going on with this too.
I sure will. Thank you. And thank Jim for including that release on the Gateway Pundit.
Yeah.
We're fighting in this together, Joe. You do great work as well, and thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Keep in touch. We'll catch up later. Okay. And thank you, Kelly Walker, for joining us today. We're going to step aside and we will be back tomorrow on the Joe Hoft Show. Thanks so much for being here, and another great guest tomorrow. Hang tight and we will see you then.